Thanks for staying with us on the SportsMax Zone. We're turning our attention now to news from the CONCACAF Nations League, and action continuing from Wednesday into Thursday with the Caribbean Islands duking it out for precious points in their various groups. We'll update you in a moment on the latest results from today and last night. St. Kitts and Nevis, by the way, the Sugar Boys have been stellar in their competition so far, having won 3 from 3 in Group C in League C of the tournament after their 3-1 victory over the British Virgin Islands. That was their second win over the BVI. Assistant coach Austin Huggins, who is a former international for the Sugar Boys, says he's pleased that the team is filled with locally based talent.
We always have the concern that we have to bring people from overseas. It's nice to see our local players playing. Again, most of the team comprise of a lot of younger players, and we also have some seasoned, experienced players, but they are also young. So it's something that we need to gel together and continue to produce a stronger and better national team.
Yeah, good to see Austin Digo Huggins in the coaching role there, having played for such a long time, over a decade and a half of representing St. Kitts and Nevis in international football. Let's go to yesterday's results, and then we check in with Brent Sancho. TNT at the moment locked in a heated battle with Cuba. We'll get to that in a moment. But here's what happened on Wednesday evening in the matches played. A hat-trick from Niall Reid-Stephen for Barbados in a 5-0 victory over the US Virgin Islands. Belize still undefeated, beating Anguilla by 1-0. And St. Kitts and Nevis getting that victory over the British Virgin Islands by 3-1. Okay, we'll be joining Brent Sancho in a moment to talk about what's been happening over the last 48 hours or 24 hours in the CONCACAF Nations League. But good to see St. Kitts and Nevis, Barbados, and Belize.
And St. Lucia.
Well, they didn't play. I'm just referencing the matches that were played yesterday. St. Lucia having matches to come. They're undefeated. We'll look at them as well. But the 3 teams that I just mentioned kept their unbeaten record intact over the last 24 hours. More than just an unbeaten record, but a winning record, because you can be unbeaten and not winning.
Yeah, correct. So for me, when I looked at all of the results getting prepared for this show, one of the things that stood out for me, Lance, is that these teams, if they continue to remain unbeaten and continue to top their group, they're going to be promoted. Promotion speaks volumes. Promotion speaks to development within the country's football program. It speaks to the players having some sort of confidence, because I feel like as Caribbean countries for quite some time, Jamaica, one of the bigger countries, has been in the headlines when it comes to football and dominating in football. Trinidad and Tobago used to be one of those. Recently, I mean, since I joined the SportsMax Zone, I feel like I've spoken about everything except winning on the field. So for me today, as a lover of sport and a lover of football, it feels really good, Lance, to see these Caribbean countries, dominating in their groups, putting up these type of performances. And I want to add that the wins, Lance, are not just like a 1-0 win, It's a lot of goals. And Ricardo always teases me and say that I like a lot of goals. But it just shows you the dominance that they have come into this competition with.
Yeah, well, we're going to link Brent Sancho now. He's on the phone to talk to us just the minutes after the final whistle between Cuba and Trinidad and Tobago. I guess we'll start there. 2-2 the final score there for TNT. Jovan Jones returning to international football, getting TNT's second goal. Wasn't able to see too much of the fixture, Brent. But how was that game for TNT?
Well, good afternoon, Lance and Mariah. I think coming into this fixture, there was a lot of conversation about the squad selection for Trinidad and Tobago. Who should be there, who wasn't there, and who possibly was, of course, selected eventually. But give Coach Derek King a lot of credit for the way he set up today. He came in with a 5-3-2 formation, 3-5-2 in attack. And despite the fact that they did ride their luck on a couple of occasions in the first half in particular, it would be a pleasant result and a pleasant display by the Trinidad and Tobago national team They had their opportunities, Lance, to score on a couple of occasions, some gilt-edged chances and some very much open chances to score. And the game really, despite the high score 2-2, it could have really gone anywhere in terms of Cuba or Trinidad and Tobago walking away with a victory.
Yeah, and I saw the returning Kevin Molino getting some playing time today. How much did he play and how did he look?
Well, he was used as a second-half substitute, and he was one of those, as I mentioned at the start of my conversation, as a surprise selection. But he came on as a second-half substitution. What he brings to the team is genuine quality on the football, the ability to spot a pass. And I think that's some of the things that Trinidad and Tobago fans will or have been clamoring for. That ability by our players to be able to possess the football and try to move the ball through the various phases of the football field. We certainly got that for him. I must give a special mention, Lance, to Jovin Jones, who for me was man of the match today. Scored an absolute scorcher with his left foot to put Trinidad ahead 2-1, and had an overall very good performance. So some of the selections I said that may have raised some eyebrows did contribute to this game. And of course, as you know, both teams do it again on Monday back in Tobago, which should be a very interesting encounter.
Yeah, that was a Jovin Jones strike that we just saw. This was an artificial surface, wasn't it? Can you?
Yeah, artificial surface. I did think it did have, it did have its impact as it relates to the way the game was played. It's you always obviously want to see games play on the natural surfaces, but in this occasion, it was played on the artificial. So it did have its impact in terms of the passing, the bounce of the ball, and all the things that come with it. The Cubans look more at home as you would expect, as it is their home fixture on the turf. So it would be interesting to see, as I said, in the second encounter, which will be played on a grass surface at the Dwight York Stadium.
All right. So that return fixture in TNT, the fans would be hoping that they would get a good result there. You've mentioned on the show before that the Tobago Stadium isn't a stadium that has a huge capacity for attendance, but I suspect that they would get a fairly good, enthusiastic crowd watching this return game.
Yeah, I think that's the key in it, really, Lance. I mean, when you think about, of course, playing in Tobago and what it means and the type of attendances we've had in the past, this is a massive game for Trinidad and Tobago, and you would hope that the fans would come out in their numbers. As I said, it hasn't been a happy ground statistically for us when we play international games in Tobago. But if there is an opportunity to change things around and get a big support, it is now. From what I've seen in the game this afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago would feel that they have every opportunity to walk away with all 3 points. And that would start with having a very big crowd and a 12-man support that could certainly push Trinidad and Tobago over the line.
Yeah, and Brent, before you joined our discussion, Lance and I were singling out the Caribbean teams and the ones that have been very dominant this year in the CONCACAF Nations League. We were calling out the teams and, of course, just talking about how they went about their business. As a former soca warrior, looking at the soca warriors at the bottom of the group, Brent, it must be painful for you.
Yeah, it is painful, but it really is indicative of where we are, Trinidad and Tobago, as a footballing nation. We have slid down the ladder quite a bit. We don't have our domestic league currently playing, and we have had 4 years of normalization committee here. So what we've seen so far, as it relates to our football actually on the pitch, is really a result or a byproduct of what's been transpiring off the pitch. And until those things are fixed, until those things are sorted out, until those things are put where they're supposed to be put, I think you will see those sorts of situations for Trinidad and Tobago. You do hope, however, Mariah, that somewhere along the line we can turn the corner. But it's not going to be an easy task, and I think a lot of Trinbagonians have to recognize that it's not just down to the TTFA or the coaches or the players. I think it needs to be a national interest and a national push.
Yeah, let's have a quick look, Brent, on the other results so far on this Thursday for CONCACAF Nations League football. We just mentioned the 2-2 draw between TNT and Cuba. Montserrat getting by Bonaire by 1-0, and Honduras, who are the group leaders, 3-2 in that game against the French Guiana team. Of course, the Jamaicans will play later on against Nicaragua. And Brent, more results there coming through on Honduras as one of the top teams in CONCACAF, cementing themselves at the top of the table at the moment based on today's results.
Yeah, it's a massive result for Honduras. I also had a chance to look at a game. It's been a football Thursday for me. And it must be said that French Guiana, for some parts of that game, looked like they were about to turn things around. But Honduras is an experienced team, a team that has punched quite well in the Gold Cup and in the Nations League. And they allowed the experience to shine through. I thought French Guiana, when they started to show the impetus, they started to show that they have the abilities to take the game away from the Hondurans. The Hondurans scored at the opportune time, and I think that was the difference in the game. They were clinical in front of the goal. They had the opportunities that they created. They put it into the back of the net, and the half chance or the half chances that was created by French Guiana, they just couldn't do the same. So that really was the difference in that game, and it does really put things into perspective as it relates to the Jamaica game here tonight, because now Honduras goes to the head of the group, and Jamaica needs a result here tonight against a very difficult Nicaragua team.
Yeah, they would go top of the table, the Jamaicans, if they win, because they are in Managua tonight, and they are getting ready to take on Nicaragua in that Group B clash in League A later this evening. Head coach of the Jamaica national team, Steve McLaren, was asked if he's concerned about the game being contested on artificial turf.
Not whatsoever. We're coming here to win the game, to try to win the game always. We respect, without doubt, we respect Nicaragua. I've watched a few of the games. Very good team, very comfortable in possession, always very close games, and they've collected 4 points, so they're going well in the Nations League. So we respect them, and if we have to play them on turf, we play them on turf. We have no excuses. Football is football, and they may be a little more used to it, but hopefully our quality will come out in the end.
Yeah, the Jamaica coach, Steve McLaren, with Damien Lowe by his side ahead of this match against Nicaragua tonight. And no surprise, Brent, about his response to that AstroTurf question, because he would obviously put forward a positive approach to the game, regardless of the circumstances.
It's called not giving the players any excuses, and you're right. He would obviously want to make sure that none of his charges are allowed to make an excuse. Yes, it is a little bit more difficult to play on AstroTurf, and especially for the players that are playing in the UK and coming from the various leagues where they don't see that type of surface throughout their league season. But as he rightfully said, it's all about getting the 3 points. I know there is a lot of clamoring, particularly in Jamaica, about Steve McLaren and, of course, trying to get not just a good result, but also a good performance. But really and truly, the objective for the Jamaicans is to continue to gel and to work together, but more importantly, or most importantly, to get the results. And this is a very difficult test for Steve McLaren and his troops, and we will learn a lot about the Jamaican team tonight.
Yeah, and the Jamaican fans are looking on to his opening fixtures as the new head coach for the Jamaica team, and there are some encouraging signs about the midfield play and the fact that there is a lot more prominence from the midfield ball handlers based on how he sets up the team, and in many ways the team looking more attractive than we had seen it. I, for one, I'm not going to embrace attractive football without results, so I'm fine with it looking attractive, but results will be the deciding factor of how the fans respond to his presiding over this team.
Yeah, I think he's tried to be a little bit more dynamic in his approach. Steve McLaren in that game in particular against Honduras, they did have moments in the game where they did set up in a way to possess the ball a bit better. It was a game marred by a lot of sloppy play by individual players, and it really was the deterrent as to why Jamaica was not a little bit better in possession. But there is an active approach to try to possess the ball more. And I just feel, Lance, that I've always said this when it comes to Jamaica. I think the defenders in particular are being a bit more patient before they make that entry pass into the middle of the park, and that's really the big difference. And they've possessed the ball around the back before making that entry pass and allowing the midfielders to set themselves up in the right way. And I think that's really been the difference between what we've seen so far from Steve McLaren. He has probably set to his back four, his goalkeepers as well, particularly his back two, that they have to allow the midfielders the opportunity to get set. So once they continue with that approach, I think it's the right way. Again, I can't stress on the fact that Nicaragua is a whole other ball game. This is a team that's on an unbeaten run of about 5 games and are very, very difficult to play against in their home field. And they're going to be looking at this game as a real test for them, and they're always up for these sorts of tests.
Yeah. Okay. Always great talking to you, Brent, on football, and so much football coming up in the CONCACAF Nations League in the coming 24 to 48 hours. And into the next week as well. So we'll have a lot more discussions, I'm sure. Thanks, Brent.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, and quickly, the upcoming fixtures now in the CONCACAF Nations League. Many of them will be on the SportsMax platforms, whether it's SportsMax 1 or 2 or SportsMax Plus. Tomorrow's fixtures: Martinique against Guadeloupe, St. Martin taking on Puerto Rico. Grenada also facing Curacao. That match will be live on SportsMax Plus at 4 o'clock. And Suriname taking on Costa Rica. Aruba against Haiti. St. Martin taking on St. Lucia. That game will be live on SportsMax at 8 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time. The Guyanese with Jamal Shabazz, the Trinidadian or Trinidadian in their coaching, head coach of that Guyana team, taking on Guatemala. And Anguilla will be up against the Belizeans, and Belize undefeated so far in the tournament. Barbados also undefeated, and they'll be up against the U.S. Virgin Islands. Those are tomorrow's fixtures in the CONCACAF Nations League. And of course, tonight, the Jamaicans in Managua taking on Nicaragua in a very important fixture for them, a fixture that could decide who are now the group leaders in Group B of League A of the CONCACAF Nations League. You can check that out at 10 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time, 9 o'clock in Jamaica. Nicaragua at home against Jamaica's Reggae Boyz. And there's the St. Vincent and the Grenadines El Salvador game coming up as well. That's on SportsMax at 9 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time. So a full slate of football matches on the SportsMax platforms upcoming. We go to break, and we'll have more on the SportsMax Zone coming up after this.